Hello, I'm James Woodcock from pixelrefresh.com. I'm here at Zap Live 2025 to look at one of the new Spectrum Next games that's going to be on Kickstarter soon, called UrbX Warriors. Tony Warriner and Stoo Cambridge are going to talk us through what their new game has on offer, so let's go and have a chat with them now.
I'm Tony Warriner, and I was a co-founder of Revolution Software, so that would be Broken Sword, Beneath Steel Sky. But I suppose I've been writing games since the 80s, since the 8-bit days.
I'm Stoo Cambridge, known for my work at Sensible Software, known for Cannon Fodder, Sensible World of Soccer, Sensible Golf. And I've been doing, similar to Tony, I've been working in games since the late 80s, early 90s. UrbX Warriors, it's an arcade game that we've kind of stumbled into developing. We originally was going to do a very small little kind of game for the Spectrum Next. And we've now kind of created this, it's like an IP that we kind of didn't expect we would create. So it's an arcade adventure game, lots of typical arcade elements, you know, collecting coins, picking up keys, unlocking doors, discovering treasure. And it's just really created a pathway for us to develop content, which we didn't really expect, did we? We sort of started it and thought we can make this as big as we can. So we've got plans to take it to new levels. First with the Spectrum Next, and then we're going to be releasing it on other formats later.
I guess we were at a Crash live show, and there was lots of Spectrum Next stuff going on. And I'd bought one of them and was quite keen to have a go at programming on it. And I think the theory was that if we started on Spectrum, because it's such a constrained platform, the game would stay small, and you know, it wouldn't be allowed to feature creep too much. And it kind of has feature crept quite a lot in that it's now a much more ambitious project. So consequently, it's really pushing the Spectrum as far as it will go. So I mean, it's neither a small game, neither an absolutely huge game, I suppose. So it's still a Spectrum game at heart, but it's much bigger than anything ever seen before on a Spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, we started off with like trying to create something very simple. I mean, we've been compared to lots of other games, but we've kind of just drawn inspiration from a lot of the classics. And we've just adapted elements we liked in a lot of the old classic arcade games, and just tried to do something on the Spectrum that hasn't been done before, on the Spectrum Next, I should say. Just working with the hardware to make it really something that doesn't look like a Next game. And I took that approach with the graphics, tried to make sure that you're working within the restraints of what the machine can do, but while you're doing that, you're trying to push it and make something that really stands out. And I think we've kind of achieved that, haven't we, really? We've had a lot of good feedback so far, people who've seen it. And you mentioned feature creep. We kind of have a little bit, but we've kind of been quite restrained with what we've done. We've added a lot of stuff in that we wasn't originally planning on doing, but we've kind of kept our senses firm when knowing that we can only do so much. So, but yeah, I mean, we're really pleased with what we've done so far. So I think it's going to be something special.
I mean, it was going to be level based. So you know, here's a level, here's a level, here's a level, and it's grown beyond that into here's a world, and there's a story running through it, and there's characterization running through it, and there's puzzles, and none of those things we originally envisaged, but it's all things we wanted to see in the game. So it's just gradually evolved into that, you know.
And we've created two characters, Ramona and Alejandro, who are, you know, a sort of. They have an interest in ancient relics and ancient history and archaeology, but they're based in South America, Peru and Bolivia. So their whole thing was they were on an urban exploration expedition looking for, I wouldn't say necessarily lost treasure, but they were just being, you know, exploring lost relics. And then they stumbled upon this entrance to a lost city. But they didn't know it was a lost city at the time. They thought it was just like another ancient relic site, and there's a hole, and they go through it. And they discover this whole underground complex, which takes them to this whole new world. And that's the premise of the game. So it gives us that, it starts us firmly in like reality of like where we are today, with like places like Pumapunku, you know, Tiwanaku, places like that in Mexico, Peru, Bolivia. But then we've took it off at a tangent so we can go into more supernatural stuff and introduce stuff that you wouldn't normally see. So it's kind of mixed it up a little bit. I mean, one of the biggest things for the Next is the palette. Although it's a much more capable palette than what the original Spectrum had, you've only got 512 colours to choose from. which is fine if you're doing lots of bright, colourful graphics. But once you start doing something that requires a bit more subtlety and a little bit more finesse, you got to be a bit careful because you haven't got the colours. So, for example, on if you want to go for something which has got like soft shadows, you can't do it. It's either medium and then or dark. So you have to kind of work in an art style or come up with an art style that fits in with that, whilst trying to look really good and arcadey. I mean, I don't generally do stippling a lot in my artwork because normally you don't need to. But for this game, I've used stippling as part of the actual style without overusing it. So I've used it as part of the texture. Rather than just using it for shading, I've used it to give us texture to the images. Like for rocks, I've had it so there's more detail on the rocks through the stippling rather than just being an extra shade of colour that we've kind of put in. And the same with the rest of the graphics. I've used a lot of techniques I've built up over the years to try and put everything I've learned into how this game looks. And when I started doing the graphics, I wanted to make something that would look like an arcade game, something like you'd expect to see on the Neo Geo, for instance. And all through the process, I've had that in my head. Think Neo Geo, think arcade, think 90s arcade machines, and just really kind of get that look within those restraints. And so far, the feedback we've had has been really positive about that. Some people didn't even know it was on the NEX. They thought it was on like a next gen, like a higher spec machine, or like on an AGA Amiga or something, and they didn't realise it was on the NEX, which is a good compliment for me because you think, wow, that's I've job done.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the same constraints as the 80s, but within a much better working environment, I suppose. I mean, the main point is it's not like modern development where you can pull in plugins and libraries and asset libraries and this sort of thing. The only way is to handcraft everything and tune it until it really shines. I mean, there's just no other way.
They can expect a game which feels like an arcade game, but with underlying sort of adventure elements and sort of RPG-ish. It's kind of hinting at RPG, but not quite. So there's interactions that will be popping up, but it won't be like every screen. You might get a little interaction here and there. But the thing is to make it pick up and play. And every element of the game has been crafted, like Tony said, to be playable. So you pick up a gun, you've only got so much ammunition. So if you go into an area all guns blazing, you use up all your ammo. You might go into a room off a corridor, and you might need to use those clips to defeat something in there. So there's an element of strategy involved in certain areas you play in the game. Same with we pick up a crowbar in the game. Well, if you're using a crowbar, you're going to get fatigued. So we put that into the game. So you can only use it for so long before you have to wait for it to recharge. Otherwise, you just go around clobbering everything, and it just adds. It kind of takes off the edge of actually being able to think about what you're doing. So there's a lot of stuff like that we've put into the gameplay that kind of just takes it away a little bit from arcade. So, but we want to keep that arcade experience with a little bit more thinking involved.
I guess we've been working on it about a year, something like that, on and off for both of us. But it started at a show like this where Stu and I got sat next to each other on a talk panel, and then we started talking about what we liked and what we were doing at the time, and then we thought maybe we should work together. And then over a period of like probably another year, just chatting casually, we slowly formed the plan of the UrbX Warriors, and then one day we just said, we just got to start. So that's what we did.
We both share the same view and philosophy on game development and the way the industry is, and it was literally down to us saying, well, maybe we should just do a game together. you know. And I don't do a lot of game development these days. I do the odd bit here and there for people, like maybe a few sprites or backgrounds, but I don't really do that a lot. So for me, it was like, let's go for it and let's do it. And it's like, I'm an all or nothing something. So if I do something, I'll do it all the way through to the end. And we thought, well, why not? Just give it a go. We've got all the experience, we've got the expertise, and
we've got like 40 years each in the industry.
It's a long life experience.
You've got to use that. You know, you don't just forget. You can't just forget it. You've got to use it for something, and this is what we're using it for.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the stuff we're doing is stuff that we learned 20, 30 years ago, you know, on the older machines, and the principles are exactly the same. It's exactly the same process. The tools are better today, but all that knowledge and experience, we can just apply it straight into this project. And so far, you know, we've I wouldn't say it's been an easy development because we're battling hardware restraints, but we had a vision of what we wanted to achieve, and we're just going through the process of doing it. You know, so it's good.
And it's just two of us.
It's just two of us.
And you know, we're not a team of like 600 people in a big studio in Canada. It's just two of us. So that in itself is a big constraint, and you know, it limits what we can achieve in a certain amount of time. But it's the way to do an authentic project, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a retro game in 2025, and that's the way to look at it.
A mix of old and new.
Yes. Definitely. It's authentic retro, yes. New retro.
Nouveau retro.
Nouveau retro. Yes, nouveau retro. Yes.
Launches Spectrum Next, and then exactly the same version but running on PC, you know, Windows and Mac and Linux. So whatever you've got, you'll be able to play it. You don't need a Spectrum Next, but the game will be exactly the same. After that, we'll look at other platforms, you know, maybe PlayStation, maybe Dreamcast, definitely Amiga. I guess there'll be a Switch and a Steam version at some point.
We've got a roadmap that we've got an idea where we're going. We'll get the next one out of the way, and then we're going to just probably take a small break and then start the next version. But every version we do will be enhanced, so it won't be like the graphics you see on this version won't be exactly the same as one on the Amiga. The Amiga will be enhanced, and then obviously the Dreamcast version will be enhanced. The graphics will be higher quality, because obviously the palette restraints on those machines are not there, so I can use more colours, enhance the frames of animation, just make it look a lot better.
Just play to the strengths of each machine.
Yeah.